Each of us has our own unique background and story of how we became a part of Chiefs Kingdom.
Our reach is far and wide, with fans all over the world cheering on our Kansas City Chiefs.
Everyone donning the red and gold has figuratively signed that mutual agreement and come together for one common purpose.
For 76,000 of us at a time, to descend upon Arrowhead, man our stations, let out our loudest battle cry to the tune of 142.2 decibels, and make that stadium rock until our opponents beg for mercy.
We are unrelenting in our pride for this city, these players, and this team. This is the show for the Allies, Arrowhead Allies.
Welcome into Arrowhead Allies, everybody. Your appointment viewing for the week is here. Wait no longer. And man, if you are watching on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, we thank you so much. Go ahead. If you're on Twitter, retweet, like, and follow us there. Facebook, share the show, comment. We want to get you guys in here, be a part of this show, be an ally with us here in the Arrowhead Allies. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. And you are not going to want to miss this one tonight. I am Nitro Noah Gronniger, as always, being joined by Mr. Electricity himself, Clint Switzer. And we could not do this and would not do this without our allies, our brothers. It may get heated, it may get spirited tonight, but they are always our brothers. We love and respect them. Brian B. Shynin from Hot 103 Jams is in the building. And of course, out in sunny Los Angeles, California, he's enjoying the outside himself because you just can't beat the weather out there. It is the Money Badger Mykell Mathieu from TGN, The Good News, and our buddy Shaggy Shane from Shaggy Shane Entertainment. You can catch him on YouTube. Does all the post game for the Chiefs. You don't want to miss that. And my friends, before we officially kick this thing off, I don't know if you're on Netflix. I don't know if you've seen the show, A Series of Unfortunate Events. But the Chiefs are going to be starring in that this new season. We see it here, a series of unfortunate events, because that's what we saw on Sunday. 20-17, the Colts win. Sky Moore with the muffed punt, a missed extra point, a missed field goal. We'll get into our new kicker later. Chris Jones jawing with Matt Ryan and a sportsmanlike conduct penalty. But Clint, you were there. You were in the building, and Lucas Oil. Just take us for that in-person perspective at the game.
In-person perspective is never a good place to be. I've had my share of heartbreaks. Noah, we've been there. Tampa Bay, Raymond James Stadium, Super Bowl 55. Definitely didn't have that feel to it because it's an early season game. But walking out of there just sort of in disbelief as to what I saw and what we witnessed out there for this Kansas City Chiefs team that we hold to such a high standard. The Chiefs are the gold standard in the AFC over the past 4 seasons now plus. And to have something like that happen, we learned that no team is no team is allergic to these kind of losses. The Chiefs are no different. Maybe if you're a glass half full person, you say, well, it happened all around the league. The Bills lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars. The the Bills lose to the Dolphins. The Chargers lose to the Jaguars. We're in no worse shape than we were. The Denver Broncos aren't a real football team, even at 2-1. That's our own division. The Raiders are 0-3, but a glass half empty might say, that was a really big opportunity for us to separate from the pack to go to 3-0, and there's no reason it should have happened. It's inexcusable and inexplicable to me, guys. And so that's where I'm at. I'm doing a little better. I'm gonna make it, but there's a lot of work to do. And I think that this game Sunday is huge for what we see going forward. Because I think this team could be staring 3-3 after 6 games right down the barrel if you don't go and get this win in Tampa, or like Shane said, Toronto, Minneapolis, Dallas, wherever the hell it's going to be.
It's going to be, a very interesting game. 2 teams coming off of losses, but I think the Chiefs they're just learning. This was something that I expected because no Tyreek Hill. I knew it was going to be some offensive adjustments, and the offense, along with the special teams, lost that game. But the last time the Chiefs took an L to the Colts during the regular season, they won the Super Bowl. So, I'm not too scared or too upset because it's early. History is a little bit on our side. So let's see what the Chiefs do with this big Sunday night game.
I was going and I was me and my wife was watching the game last night. You know, I was really getting excited, teaching the plays and doing all of that. And I learned a lot. You hit it on the head, Mykell. It's a total team sport. When talking about special teams, talk about defense, offense, everybody relies on everybody. And when one of those links is broken, the entire team is broken. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the things that some folks have to come to grips with not really paying attention to special teams or when you're jaw jacking with Matt Ryan. I want to say this. That was the thing that upset me the most. It was a total team loss for everybody. But the fact that Chris Jones just couldn't just hold it and just get off the field, you already dominated. You did your job. That's the thing that really set me off, because those are not components of a championship team. When you lose your composure, we saw it in the Super Bowl when we lost our composure and things just unraveled after that. That was the thing that was the tip of the iceberg for me. And I knew that something bad was about to happen after that point. But going into the game, I knew it was going to be tough. I knew it wasn't going to be easy. But I hope the Chiefs learned a lot about themselves last game and some of the things that they can do and some of the things that they can't do.
You know, in years past, we've all seen, I've been watching a lot of football. I'm 52, and I've been watching the Chiefs exclusively since 1977 when I was 7 years old. And when they got good in the 90s, up till now, there's always that one game. There's always that one game that when the schedule came out in April, which now the schedule comes out in May, you look at and you say, oh, they'll win this. And when it comes up to that week, you look at the opposition that you're going to play, and not only do you feel like you have to win this and you should win this, and if you don't win this, it's going to be a huge problem, especially looking at your opponent. I know Lance Twidwell said 3 weeks ago that he thought the Colts would win the AFC, be the number one seed in the NFC or the AFC. That's not going to happen. They are a terrible team. Matt Ryan looks old. And the Chiefs did everything they could Sunday to give them that win. I watched the game in Seattle with a bunch of Seahawks fans, and they said, man, the Colts aren't doing anything to win this game. The Chiefs are just giving it away. Mm-hmm. And they did. And the Chiefs gave it away. Sky Moore, you thought, oh, man, Sky Moore, how could you do that? Well, Nick Amendola said, hold my beer. I'm going to help. I'm going to get Sky Moore off the hook. Then Sky Moore, Nick Amendola got Sky Moore off the hook. Then Chris Jones said to Nick Amendola, hold my beer. I'm going to get Nick Amendola and Sky Moore off the hook. But that's a situation I feel, and I expanded it on my show yesterday. If you're going to throw us on a sportsmanlike conduct penalty, you have to tell the media, you have to tell the world why. You can't just say aggressive language. The NFL has gone above and beyond in the last 20 years to make sure the fans know why the referees call it unsportsmanlike conduct. If the referee has to get up there and say he used homophobic racial slur, he used you better tell the world why you're throwing a 15-yard penalty, because like I said, the NFL has gone above and beyond in telling the fans, this is why we're throwing a flag. This is what we're going to do here. They can't just say aggressive language, because everybody and their mom plus Tom Brady has aggressive language every single play of every single game. And that referee decided upon himself that he was going to take the flag and throw it at a critical point when he knew that the Colts were going to have to punt with 4.5 minutes left. We could blame Chris Jones and we could blame Travis Kelce and Sky Moore, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to Big Red, Andy Reid. He took the blame for the colossal mess that took place in Indianapolis, and it does fall at the feet of Andy Reid. But we have to pick ourselves up and we have to learn from it. There's a story about that game I want to get to in a little bit, but right now I think we should talk about, in my opinion, I would like to know what Clint thinks, how he feels about being at the game. Clint, what was the vibe like at Indianapolis watching the game?
It's such a docile environment at Lucas Oil Stadium. It's really it's not a loud stadium. Indiana people, they're just kind of salt of the earth type people that just come in, and it's almost like what it must be like sitting at a baseball game, a September baseball game where your team's 10 games under 500. But there was a lot of Chiefs fans there, but they were quiet because there was nothing to stand up and cheer for 3.5 hours. It was a game that I feel like, Mykell mentioned losing to the Colts 3 years ago in the Super Bowl season. That was a game in which the Colts came in here and ran for almost 200 yards. This is a game in which the Colts did nothing really well themselves. This was a gift wrap. So that's one thing that was a huge difference here. It was a very strange feeling. It just, because you just go in there expecting for us to go in there and execute. And I think we're going to get into this as we go, but I think that there's some real trouble with this offense. And I think that there's a down trend here that we're seeing that can be very problematic. Now, this is a small sample size, 3 games, but it's what we have to go on. The receivers are what's concerning me right now, guys. Between the entire receiving core, 34 catches through 3 games is what the receiving core has. Travis Kelce and Clyde Edwards-Helaire have 29 between the two of them. So from sitting in the upper level of Lucas Oil, receivers aren't getting open. They're not getting separation. The routes are all underneath. There's nothing that's going over the top. And I think that the Chiefs are trying to kind of adapt to maybe this new style, but they're going to have to get somebody going. And as I asked you guys on the post-game show, which was great, by the way, Mykell and Brian, who's the Chiefs' best receiver right now? I don't have an answer.
It's Kelce.
That's not a receiver.
Juju.
I look.
So
okay, so Clint, you're still hanging on to last year's offense. That's it. You're not going to see a bunch of bursts with these receivers.
But I thought we had speed. I thought we had McCole Hardman and Sky Moore and guys that can get downfield.
Well, McCole was hurt. McCole was hurt throughout that game. And there was a shot that Patrick took early in the game. I think it was in the first quarter to MVS left side. He missed him. That's on Patrick. You got to make those side throws to ease them off, to back them off a little bit. There was really no reason for them to back up, especially with us not running the ball effectively. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 7 carries, no yards with a tutty. Jerick McKinnon, he got going late, 7 carries, 20 yards. Pacheco really couldn't get going. To me, that's the number one problem with this offense right now. I'm not really looking at the receivers. I'm looking at the running game. And I'm not.
We've never had that.
I don't know who to blame with it. I seen some tape today that says maybe I should blame a couple of the running backs. There was a tape out there with Clyde missing his zone, cutting up in the middle. I think it's a number of things, but to me, I point the finger at the running game, and the play calling was not 100%. It was not an A+ game in the coach's booth this past Sunday.
Yeah, and I agree, Brian. I think that's the big issue, even with the running game. I just think the plays that they're calling with these running backs isn't it. They're not Damian Williams, a guy who can get up the field really fast. So you have to call different types of runs. And Clint, you said the number 1 receiver, I think it's Juju. He's a guy who can make plays, after the catch. We just need to get a little more vertical routes going. But for that to go, you need your offensive line to hold up. You can't have your left tackle who wants to be paid $30 million a year falling over and being dominated by guys we don't even know who are playing DN. So it's going to be up to the O-line to get better and things like that. But I knew it going in. That's why I didn't tell people the Chiefs are going to go 15-2 or 14-3. I knew that they were going to have their issues early offensively, trying to figure out what are we. And, that's why I'm so happy we got that Charger win, because it kind of, puts us in a great place in the division. But it's going to be a learning curve. Will they lose this next game? We'll see. But I expected this learning curve. And I think that, week 8, if we have these same type of issues, then I'm going to be more in a panic.
And when you look at it in totality, you don't want to get too high when they win, and you don't want to get too low when they lose. Granted, you want to look at what you did when you lost and turn it into a positive. What was so glaring about this Sunday's loss is that there were so many issues. It wasn't just like, man, Sky Moore drops that punt and then they score. It was a slew of issues. Yeah. Even Patrick Mahomes on the second drive, on 2nd and 10, he ran for 3 yards when he had Clyde Edwards-Helaire open out of the backfield. If he just throws it to him, CEH at least easily gets at least 15 or 20 yards. So
Kelsey was over there pointing at him to throw from Mahomes to throw to CEH, and he didn't. And Kelsey got a little angry after the play you saw there.
Right. Yeah. So I think Patrick Mahomes, we worried about how the defense was going to mesh together. I think Patrick Mahomes does have to grow with these receivers. I mean, everybody talks about Tyreek Hill being gone. When you got a talent like Tyreek Hill gone, yeah, sure. Who I feel I miss on playing for the Chiefs is Byron Pringle. He hear me out. Justin Watson, as I said, all training camp and preseason, Justin Watson has to be that Byron Pringle. And there was a couple of third downs where Justin Watson didn't get back. If he would have got back 1 yard, making a dive for that football, he would have caught it. Justin Watson has to be that Byron Pringle, because Byron Pringle was clutch for 2019, 20, 21, 3 seasons, and just keeping the drives going. I mean, people may think, oh, come on, Shaggy, Byron Pringle was nothing. Okay. I don't got Byron Pringle's third down receptions in front of me, but I am going to look that up. Byron Pringle was clutch at keeping the drives alive. Justin Watson needs to be Byron Pringle, but in the entire landscape, Patrick Mahomes has to click with Juju, MVS. Even that long pass to Juju for 52 yards, it was a hell of a throw by Patrick Mahomes because he threw it sidearm. It was still behind Juju. You know, before too long, give it a couple weeks, Patrick Mahomes is going to be hitting these guys in stride. And going back to the first possession, when he overthrew MVS, he's got to get that speed down. Once Patrick gets the continuity down with all his receivers, then I think we'll be set.
And Shane, tell me about where's our guy at? Where's Jody? Like, why aren't we seeing Jody Fortson out there on the field? You know, he's not just a red zone guy. He's a guy with some speed. Like, we're not seeing the 3 tight end sets that we all expected. So if you're going to have to run these intermediate routes, why not have these big bodies out there with Kelsey, Noah Gray, and Jody that can make some of those tough catches where you can kind of get the safeties to move up. Then you could try to go over the top, but they're not even getting the intermediate stuff the way that they should be.
Yes, sir. There's a lot of things that they need to work out. I'd love to see them exploit the opposing defenses with the physical attributes that Jody Fortson presents. Definitely. Good point, Mykell.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I know, Shane, you don't miss Tyreek Hill. You're missing Byron Pringle out there. I do miss Tyreek Hill, but I mean, we've gone over that. You've heard my opinion. You're not going to take my word for it. So maybe you'll take 2 Hall of Famers' words for it. I've got a video here. Maybe this can convince you, because obviously I haven't so far.
Is the Chiefs' offense actually better without Tyreek Hill because it's spreading it around?
No, they're not better. No. Teams aren't better without great players. Yes, they spread it around. Yes, more people get involved, blah, 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 blah.
Oh.
Great players are great players, and every team is better when they have great players on the field. Kansas City will still be good offensively because they have a great player at the quarterback position. But Tyreek Hill does things that nobody else can do. I mean, just this play right here. I remember watching this against Buffalo last year where it was 2-man, and they were playing inside leverage. You don't win on an in route against 2-man, yet Tyreek Hill does it. Oh, yeah, and on top of that, he runs it 70 yards for the touchdown on top of it. He does things that are different. We've already seen it in Miami. No, this team is not better offensively without him. Still good, but they are not better without him.
What Eric Bieniemy was saying to him was, we're going to the locker room. We don't have Tyreek Hill anymore. Let's go. Let's get to the locker room with 20 seconds left in the half, 24 seconds left in the game. We don't have Tyreek Hill anymore. Patrick Mahomes is used to going forward because you had Tyreek Hill. Yeah. I felt the pain as I sat right here across from this man as he told me how the Cowboys lost in 13 seconds and the Chiefs won in 13 seconds. 13 seconds with Tyreek Hill, 20 seconds without him, and you throw it all away. That's the points. That's where you miss Tyreek Hill. We've been trying to discern. And we've vacillated back and forth, this and that, maybe this, maybe this, maybe that. We just put our finger on the nail. This is where you miss Tyreek Hill most. Because with those few seconds, 20 seconds left, everybody still knows Tyreek's on the football field. They're backing up. They're giving you all that underneath stuff. So you can make those easy throws and go get the yard that you need to get a field goal right here, right now. Yes, they can be good and they'll be successful, but they will always miss Tyreek Hill because they will always see situations like this. Eric Bieniemy is saying, we're not with these jamokes. We need Tyreek Hill to do that. That's what he said, and I'm okay with that.
The guys aren't getting separation. You heard it there. Eric Bieniemy saying, not with these jamokes. And what is a jamoke? Does anyone know the term for that? I've never heard that word before. I had to look it up. And this is what the definition came back. Ordinary, unimpressive, or inept people. Inept is probably too strong for me. I might go ordinary with this receiving core. But you heard it there. And it's not just Clint that was at the game that says these guys aren't getting separation. James Palmer of NFL Network went on and said, this is, via the stats, the least separation that the receivers have had under Mahomes. So these guys are not breaking away. They're not getting free. Shane, you mentioned the throw from Mahomes to Juju, how it was kind of behind him a little bit. But the corner was right there. He was on top of him because there's no separation from this receiving core. And so, yes, I miss Tyreek Hill, especially in the end-of-game scenario. The guys were all blanketed. They were all playing these curls underneath. They had to. It was quick. But you had no threat of Tyreek Hill, so you had no room to get a pass in.
You know, that you're like I said, you're always going to miss the talent. But the only reason I said Pringle is because it wouldn't have took that much to pay Pringle. Byron Pringle even came back with his offer to the office of the Brett Veach. And it was on the Tyreek Hill podcast because he had Byron Pringle on. And he said he brought his offer back to Chicago, hoping that the Chiefs would match, similar to J.J. Burton when he left after the 1994 season. And Brett Veach thanked him for his time in Kansas City and gave him a refrigerator magnet. And Tyreek Hill said, I didn't even get a refrigerator magnet.
Hey, Shane, I think that you should be Byron Pringle's agent because you are selling the hell out of that guy. And, I think the Chiefs need more. I think it came down, like the end of the half issue came down to the offensive line. I just think that they just saw Pat getting hit and was like, all right, we get the ball at half. We don't want him to keep taking these hits that he's getting. Let's just draw up a real good, first drive. And if we can get some points, we can have a good lead. But, it didn't happen. But you got it, Clint.
Brian, I got to go with you with this because I feel like we could have a good conversation here. Mykell bringing up the offensive line, and Noah and I have gone back this week and looked at some things that could have happened, should have happened when it comes to because we were walking out of Raymond James Stadium there in February of 2021, dumbfounded. And I said, this is going to be a knee-jerk reaction. And a knee-jerk reaction didn't even cover it for what this franchise did to go get Orlando Brown with a first-round pick. And now we have a contract situation. Joe Thuney is with the money he's making, it's a bit inexplicable. I know you got to build a line. We've got to have something, but would this team not be better off had we just, drafted a first-round left tackle there and let him develop? He'd be in year two with a cheap contract as we addressed other positions, and maybe you could still keep a Tyreek Hill. I mean, where's this offensive line at? I mean, because to me, it's hard to discern between a top 10 offensive line and a middle-of-the-road offensive line and the 20th or 21st offensive line.
Oh, you could tell. You can definitely tell.
So who's got the best line in football?
Best line?
Nobody knows because it's hard.
It's too early right now to tell. You can't tell by the stats, but you can tell who the worst is. You can definitely tell who some of the worst. The Bengals, they're some of the worst.
The Giants,
the Giants, some of the worst. You can tell who's some of the worst. Please believe me, you can tell.
But I said to 20 or 21st, not necessarily the worst. I said there's not a lot of difference between middle of the road, 21st, 20. You know what I mean? Not necessarily 32nd, which this line is not. But what is it?
I'm not sure what it is right now. I think they still have the capabilities to be elite. They're not showing right now. There were times last year where they showed that they were pretty good and they were pretty elite. But so far in this season, Orlando Brown has struggled. Maybe that's due to his absence in training camp the first week or two, however long he was missing. Maybe that's part of
taking a step back.
Trey Smith is definitely taking a step back. I've seen some tape on him, not necessarily using the right techniques in some spots. But let's face it, fellas, man, some people are still stuck on last year's offense, and the expectation is still that they're supposed to be this high octane explosive. We're not the same. We can still be as effective.
Yeah,
we can still, we can still be as effective and you can still score points and be dominant. You just have to do it in a different way. And that's what the Chiefs are in the middle of learning right now. With the receivers not getting open, okay, fine. With the tight end, I love the 3 tight end sets that we came out with in Arizona. We haven't seen that. And another thing on the offense, besides the receivers, Patrick has to grow up a little bit. I'm the biggest 15 fan there is. I have his jersey hanging up right here in this very room right now. And I have replaced Derek Thomas as my favorite Chief with Patrick Mahomes. So there's no better, there's no greater fan of 15 than me. But there were several plays out there to where the running backs were open on wheel routes, flare routes, and he just would not look to them. He's looking for the deep ball, looking for the old offense. Well, fellas, the new offense is sort of what we experienced maybe with Alex Smith, maybe not as vanilla, but you have to hit the underneaths, man. Ooh. They're there for a reason. Why not take a 5-6 yard gain instead of getting an incomplete pass or getting an interception thrown or a tip ball for an interception? Take the underneath. And I know I might be preaching to the choir here, but 15 has to grow up a little bit in this offense, and some of the blame has to be on him and not fully on the receivers.
Good point. And I want to say real quick, Cole DeRoos of How About Those Chiefs just commented that Jody Fortson wasn't in on any blocking plays. So that's something that we need to look at too. How many snaps has Jody Fortson taken so we can utilize him as a weapon? What's he saying right there?
Yeah, that's the same comment that Jody Fortson was used in 0 run blocking situations.
Thank you, Cole. Appreciate you.
May I add in a name that I think that the Chiefs do kind of miss when it comes to some of the short stuff in like the running game is Blake Bell. A lot of times he's a guy that the Chiefs can trust to pick up, maybe a DN for, a play here or there. But now that guy is Noah Gray, and Noah is having a hard time. If you go back and look at the tape, like Noah is getting destroyed to where now, the running backs have to make a play right when they get the ball. So he's a name I think that Chiefs miss a little more than, we're talking about. Noah,
I've got to go to you here because we've talked about this, and I think that you can kind of help bring this together. Brian talking about kind of tempering expectations, and he's right. There is a learning curve here, and this is a new offense. We saw the offense evolve in the middle of last season when it was bogged down and not effective with Tyreek Hill here. But I want to know how we got here. When you rewind back to September of 2018, you got Sammy Watkins, you got Tyreek Hill, you got Travis Kelce, you got Kareem Hunt. And at that moment when Patrick Mahomes exploded on the scene, Brett Veach said, we will always surround him with weapons. We will always put these players in front of him. So how did we get from 2018 to 2022? Where Brian's talking about an Alex Smith offense again. I want to know how this happened, and I want to know why it's happened.
Because Tyreek, simple.
It's not.
You don't have the most explosive player in the game anymore.
You also missed on Mecole Hardman and maybe missed on Sky Moore. Noah, I want to. What do you think?
It's not a fire Brett Veach take, but in that sentiment of him saying, I'm always going to surround Patrick Mahomes with talent, it's not for a lack of trying. He's gone out there and he's tried. Mecole Hardman. The jury's still out on Sky Moore, MVS, Juju. He drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire. It's not for a lack of trying, but it does have to do with him failing with those picks. He's great in the later rounds. We've seen the L'Jarius Sneed was a great pickup. We've seen what Jalen Watson has done early on. Trey Smith, it seems like he hit on Creed Humphrey in the second round. But
Nick Bolton.
The skill positions, Nick Bolton, yes. The skill positions on offense, he has failed to surround Patrick Mahomes with continued upper-level talent. And that's what we're seeing right now. These guys aren't getting separation. I don't think that's just going to magically happen. Andy Reid's going to have to do his best in scheming them open and using some rub plays, pick plays, something to get these guys some separation out there. But you do have to bring it up and talk about how Brett Veach has failed to continue to surround Mahomes with the talent. He just came out in a press conference today, was talking a lot about Odell Beckham. And so that could be an option down the road that we think about. He's talking about how the Rams brought him in. It worked out well. Robert Woods went down. It was kind of fortuitous for them to sign Odell and then have Robert Woods go down the next day in practice. But so that's somebody we could be looking at. But to me, you go out and you sign Joe Thuney to this massive deal. I'm not signing a left guard to a massive deal. I don't care if he's the only offensive lineman out there that's name-wise in free agency. I'm not signing a left guard. When I've got Tyreek Hill on the board saying, okay, he's going to command this amount of money, and it went up due to some of the moves that were made in the offseason. The receiver market got reset, but still, I'm not doing it. Tell me, where's our money spent? Left guard and defensive tackle. Other than quarterback. Is that where you want to spend your money at left guard and defensive tackle?
Hey,
no, it is not. Chris Jones is not a generational player. Tyreek Hill is. You move heaven and earth to keep generational type talents. We didn't do it, and this offense is struggling.
Put it in context, Noah. Yeah. Put it in context, man. Put it in. That was directly after the Super Bowl, fam. Directly after the Super Bowl, you went out and got Joe Thuney. So the Super Bowl in which we were, I want to say that we were supposed to win that Super Bowl.
Well, yeah.
If you do have a healthy offensive line, right. I think the Chiefs are back-to-back champions. And with that being said, when you're missing opportunity to get another trophy, you're going to do whatever you have to do. And maybe we were a little desperate in trying to get Joe Thuney and trying to rework the offensive line and trying to get Orlando Brown Jr. in here. And possibly, maybe a first-round pick. I don't know who you would have picked in the first round in 2021 or whatever. Yeah, it was 2021, right? Yeah, that was after the Super Bowl. I don't know what pick you got. I haven't done my research on that.
Evan Jenkins, Christian Darrisaw.
Who knows if those work out though? Those aren't locks to work out either. So you gotta put those things in context. He didn't just go out and just go get these guys. There was a reason he went to go get these guys because Patrick Mahomes was trying to be Superman in the Super Bowl, doing everything by himself.
And Brian, like you talking about, these names, Thuney, Brown, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, the O-line. I just don't think we're utilizing them right. Like coming into this season, I thought, all right, we don't have Tyreek, a guy who can catch a 5-yard, 10-yard pass and make it a 70-yard touchdown, that we were going to try to get the most out of the run game so it won't be all on Pat, try to make something happen, depending on these receivers that we know aren't Tyreek Hill. But it's the fact that they're not getting the best out of the running game, which is like very disappointing to me, because you have these big-time run blockers. Like, as much as we want, to talk about the O-line, we know this isn't a great pass blocking O-line per se. Like, these guys are run blockers. So if we can get that run blocking going, it's going to open up with, play action passes and then get the screen game going and things like that. But when you can't have you run for 58 yards is not good enough. So they have to really sit back and find a way, because if not, these teams are going to blitz. The DNs are going to get after Patrick Mahomes until we find a way to make them pay running the ball.
Shane, I got to ask you, because I, as upset as I was walking out of Lucas Oil and as hard as it was for me to take that, just given, what this Chiefs team is and the opportunity there to create a little more separation, these games have been complete aberrations. You mentioned it in the past. We've seen it. You talked about once a year since the 90s. I mean, I don't know about that, because we've had a lot of some bad teams that just went 2-14, and that's different, of course. But one thing that I can say about this coaching staff and this team is that with the leadership that we have in place, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, the core of this team, Andy Reid, is rallying the troops and coming back and righting these wrongs. Last year, you guys talked about it on postgame and did a great job. It was therapy for me, by the way, is that the 3-4 start, this team was done. I said they were broken. It's broken. It wasn't. They got it together. Won 9 out of 10, whatever it was. So Shane, take me through this. What's the process here? Is this a one-off that we're going to look back on and be like, what in the hell? The 9-7-1 Colts, the 8-1 Colts in week 3. Is that what we have on our hands here?
The only story that we will look back on this game is what took place just before halftime. Follow me. When Andy Reid was at the combine, we were anticipating, what's Andy Reid going to talk about? He's getting ready to talk to the media. Andy Reid, let's hope somebody in the media asks him about who he's specifically watching. Is he looking at a wide receiver? Is he looking at a running back? Or what's he looking at? Does he want to get a left tackle since, it's March of 2022 and his left tackle's holding out? Maybe maybe some reporter's going to try to ask him, try to get a feel for maybe a left tackle or a wide receiver or whatnot. Andy Reid walks to the podium, and the first thing he says is, besides, I'm glad to be here to see these kids, he says, I want to let you know there's no problem between Eric Bieniemy and Patrick Mahomes. And he went on to talk about it, and the media and us Chiefs fans listening were thinking, why is he bringing up that freaking story from 5 weeks ago? We're supposed to bury it. we're supposed to look back, because if you want to bury something that's been buried for 5 weeks, you don't step up to the podium at the combine and say, yeah, I just want to let everybody know there's nothing going on between Eric Bieniemy and Patrick Mahomes without even being asked. He brought that to the forefront. So I thought to myself, that's odd. He wasn't asked, and he just brought it out. Then he went back to the combine. Well, what did we see just before halftime? Eric Bieniemy and Andy Reid just griping at each other. And I'm thinking, oh, this isn't a good look. This isn't a good look. And Andy Reid finally walks up 10 seconds into the argument, says, all right, break it up. And I said to myself right there, the Chiefs better win this game, because we know about that story in February. We know Eric Bieniemy can't get a job regardless. He should have got a job. I want him to be the successor to Andy Reid when Andy Reid retires, but he didn't. He never got a job. Eric Bieniemy had an 8-hour job interview with the New Orleans Saints after being there for 2 days. The very next day, they hired their defensive coordinator to be their head coach. That argument between Patrick Mahomes and Eric Bieniemy that we saw before halftime, going back to the combines when Andy Reid just brought it up when he wasn't asked, going back to the story itself, and going back to the AFC Championship game, that argument that we saw at halftime is the reason why Eric Bieniemy will never be an NFL head coach. Is it unfortunate to Eric Bieniemy? Yeah, but that's just where it is now. You could say, well, that story was kind of far-fetched, but when we look back at this game, to answer your question specifically, Clint, we're going to look back at this game when the Chiefs are riding high, going to the playoffs. We're going to be looking back, that blow up a week 3 before halftime between Eric Bieniemy and Patrick Mahomes is going to keep Eric Bieniemy from getting a job. Now, Eric Bieniemy, let me say this real quick. I'm going to wrap it up. Eric Bieniemy is going to take the podium Thursday and talk to the media, and he's going to be asked, and he's going to say, it's nothing. We argue all the time, but it's bigger than it is, guys. It's bigger than it is.
Well,
where
Shane,
there's smoke, there's fire.
Noah and I broke that story back in February at Super Bowl Radio Row. So yeah, we were right in the thick of that.
Yeah.
With what happened, and now all of a sudden that when we endured a lot of hate for that because we interviewed Brandon Lang, who broke this story on our show during Super Bowl Radio Row, and all of a sudden people are starting to look at this and say what's going on here, Mykell.
Yeah. I don't think that is anything major. I just think that it's me being in LA, I saw Kobe for years go at Phil Jackson. And that's what great players and fiery players are going to do. And if you're Kobe, you're going at a guy who has 6, 9 championships, at the times he was being coached. It's just a fiery player who wants to make a play. But, the great Michael Irvin said it. You don't have a Tyreek Hill there that you can throw the ball to, that the defense respect enough to where you can get these 10, 15-yard plays when the clock is low. So I just think that, we just have to take our time, man. Aaron Rodgers said it best a few years ago, relax. It's only week 3. If you can win the Super Bowl at week 3, shout out to the Jacksonville Jaguars. It looks like they're going to be Super Bowl champions, what they did to the Chargers here in L.A. But I just think that we just have to let these guys grow. But it's going to be on the coaches. The offensive coaches really have to get it together. Shout out to the defensive coaches, what Spags is doing with that defense. It looks like that at the end of the year, we're going to have a defense that can compete with anybody. And we don't even have Trent McDuffie back, who looks, a lot like Jair Alexander when he plays. So it's on Andy, it's on EB to get this thing together, because if we can get the offense and defense going the way that we can, this week 3 spat before the half is going to be nothing at all, and that's what I think is going to be at the end of it all.
I have so many thoughts about this situation. I think it's minor, but it's major at the same time. When you're in a super competitive environment, look, man, you're going to have disagreements. You're going to have arguments. You're going to have spats. It is what it is. I have a morning show that I did with my sister Shay Moore, love her to death, but there were times where we wanted to rip each other's head off because of creative differences, because of certain techniques or whatever. It could be anything. We know what it is with this situation. Patrick wanted to be aggressive. EB thought it was a bad idea. And to me, EB's demeanor was very calm, cool, and collected. You didn't see him going off. You didn't see him being animated, as we've seen him before. I've seen Eric Bieniemy in training camp tear DeAnthony Thomas's head off
Good example. Deserved, I'm sure.
Because he didn't finish the play going to the pylon and get to score a touchdown. I've seen Eric Bieniemy go off. Eric Bieniemy was very cool, calm, and collected. Okay, and there have been, I'm pretty sure, guys, there have been a number of times to where Patrick Mahomes is going off on somebody. If it's not the coaches, maybe it's a couple players or something, and the cameras just didn't pick it up. Well, the cameras just happened to pick this one up. We saw Ken Dorsey up in Buffalo slamming his damn iPad down, going crazy like a knucklehead, and nobody's calling for his job or calling him a maniac. But in the meantime, Eric Bieniemy is being cool, calm, and collected, and everybody's trying to take his head off for it. But what I do think in the major, and what you pointed to, Shane, is that just the look itself with Eric Bieniemy and him. Yeah, it's the optics. It's 100% the optics why I think, this will be Eric Bieniemy's last year in Kansas City. I think the players are a little tired of it. And I don't see nothing wrong with a refresh or restart. I love EB. But the optics of this one alone, on top of everything else that we've heard with EB, and we've seen him get into it with Kelsey. We've seen him get into it with a couple other players as well. But with the optics of this one, I think this is the cherry on top, because you're beefing with arguably the best player in the league. And then you got players coming out and defending him too. It's not a good look for EB right now.
Yeah, we've got some comments coming in about EB, and just he'll be coaching college. Nagy will be the next offensive coordinator here in KC, come back to his old position. We'll kind of see how that goes. You're probably right, because Andy loves to just go to kind of what's familiar, what he knows. Nagy's done it before. He could bring him back. Some of the comments here have come in about Tyreek Hill. The Chiefs were 17th in deep balls when he was here last year. That's because they were playing cover 2 shell. They were doing everything in their power to stop that, which opened up everything underneath. And that's kind of what we were talking about. It's not bringing back, we're going to have this explosive deep ball offense that was still there in moments and times, but it also opened up the underneath. Now you don't have the deep ball and you don't have the underneath. So we're struggling a little bit. We're trying to find our way. And we've mentioned the backs out of the backfield and things like that, but just kind of this defense, guys, to kind of turn to a positive note. Mykell, you've mentioned it. I mean, we played the Cardinals. They're kind of struggling here. We've seen what the Jags just did to the Chargers, and the Colts. They're pretty much inept, but the defense is looking in top form. I mean, we're used to them kind of coming slow out of the gates. Later in the year, halfway through, maybe further than that, week 11, week 12, then they start coming on. It looks like they're coming on now, even with the competition that we faced. Brian, you're shaking your head. Yes, I know you love some defense.
Oh, yeah.
Go into it and tell us what this defense is doing out there.
Oh, I'm licking my chops right now, man, because our linebackers are fantastic. Nick Bolton is out here like a madman. That fourth down, the stop on 4th and 1, and credit to the D-line for getting a major push. And I know we talked about it on the post-game show, but it bears bringing back up again. Carlos Dunlap, he got penetration. Chris Jones, the generational talent, you don't see it, Noah, but I do.
Not a generational talent.
I think Chris Jones is sensational, and I think that he's probably great. The biggest key to the defense.
It's not generational.
Aaron Donald's generational.
Okay, you can have that. I would agree with that. I would agree with that. But I think Chris Jones, come on, man, hell of a player, bro. One of the best D tackles in Chiefs history.
We don't win the Niners Super Bowl 54. We don't win it without him knocking all those balls down
at all. And our linebackers don't play as well as they had been without him. And Karlaftis, he looks like a great pickup. Dunlap is a good pickup as well. But the back end, let's talk about our defensive backs. Jalen Watson looks like I don't want to say steal, but he definitely looks like at least a starter at the least right now. Okay, Jalen Watson looks good. Trent McDuffie, when he got some PT, he had a couple of struggles, but look, that defensive backfield is reason to be happy about this Chiefs team. They're more athletic on defense. They hit harder on defense. It seems like nobody's making any business decisions on the field. They're going 100% full force with it. So I like to see a little more pass rush. We saw some flashes from 2019. Frank Clark, I call him Lil Uzi.
He looks good out there.
He did look good. It's against a Colts O-line, but I'll take it where we can get it. But you get those defensive backs going, and they get to stick into those receivers like glue. And that gives time for the D line to really get there and pin their ears back and get to the quarterback. And it works both ways as well. The D line helps out the defensive backs by getting there sooner, so that the defensive backs can smother the receivers of the Colts. I thought they did a fantastic job of smothering, really getting on those Colts receivers at the LOS and making it hard for them to get open. The defense looks great, man. If it wasn't for Sky Moore, fumbling that punt and muffing that punt, I'm not sure if the Colts score a touchdown that game.
Yeah.
Right. And man, like the defense is just doing some great stuff. They have 10 sacks in 3 games. Which what we had last year is like, oh wow, like we're the Space Jam defensive line all of a sudden. So that's great. Darius Harris, he steps up, he comes in, he plays well. I'm just excited what Spags is doing with those guys, man. We look so fast. Even you got Brian Cook coming in there and, making some plays here and there. So I think the defense is something that's going to continue to get better. And it's going to be a reason why we win a lot of these games, while we figure it out offensively, because they're going to figure that out. Like, I trust Andy Reid. I trust EB. I trust Mahomes, Kelsey. We haven't even brought up the fact that Kelsey could have finished the game if he catches that touchdown pass and we go up, 24-13. Game's over because the pass rush was getting after Matt Ryan. So I just think that game was a lot of fluke stuff that went on, but it's continuing to show us that this defense is for real. Nick Bolton is for real. Chris Jones is that guy. Our DBs, Justin Reed was a great pickup to replace the Honey Badger. I think that the Chiefs defense is going to be something to look out for. Hey, I picked them up in fantasy and they helped me get a win. So
there you go. That's a rarity.
Yeah. So, shout out to
we held that running game down. So that major problem, because the Chiefs' freaking defense was great Sunday. It sucked that it came down to them only having to go 50 yards after the personal foul penalty to give that up. I mean, even Thornhill had good coverage on the game-winning 12-yard touchdown.
He's 6'7". What are you going to do?
Yeah, perfect pass.
Right.
Yeah, Nick Bolton's a guy that Noah and I covered for 4 years at Mizzou. He's the most instinctual player I've ever seen at the University of Missouri at the linebacker position. I didn't know, because he's a little undersized, how that would translate. And it did immediately, and it paid dividends. And Willie Gay and Nick Bolton are a great combo. I can't wait to see more of it.
Yeah,
we here in 3 weeks or so. So let's get on to that. But as much as I hate to do this, guys, because I tend to dwell on things, I hold on to things in my life too much. I know. But we got to go on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because apparently that game's going to take place Sunday night somewhere across this great country. And guys, if it's close enough, we all just need to meet wherever the hell it is and have an Arrowhead Allies party and bring this thing home on Sunday. But I think this is a big game. Shane, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a team that you've looked up to and respected throughout your football watching career. I used to love the creamsicle uniforms growing up. I used to really be a big fan of receiver Courtney Hawkins and some of the things because they weren't very good in the 90s. Eric Rhett. But this is
where's your Hardy Nickerson jersey?
That's right. This is a big one, because you risk falling here to 2-2 with the Raiders and the Bills coming up. This is a big an opportunity here. Now, you'd rather, if you don't get to pick who you win and lose to, you'd rather win the AFC game and lose to the NFC team. That's not where we are. Tampa Bay, this is a big time situation. Their defense has only allowed 3 touchdowns here all season long so far, but their offense is really struggling. This is a weird game that I think could go a lot of ways. The Chiefs are favored by 2.5 going in here. Shane, make me feel good. Tell me something that's going to get me back on the path to righteousness, my brother.
It's because of the fact we're coming off that loss. We're coming off a loss where the coaches obviously blame themselves. It wasn't coach speak. You looked at why wasn't this team prepared? Why was Sky Moore dropping punts like that? Why didn't Kelsey catch the pass? Mahomes in the Bieniemy situation, they're going to want to sweep that under the carpet as fast as they can and make everything look good. And with that being said, the Chiefs got to stop Leonard Fournette. Fournette's a beast, and he's freaking running hard. He's running strong. They have some pieces missed on their offensive line that the Chiefs can take advantage of, but still, Tom Brady's 45. He's going to be relying a lot on Fournette, and honestly, I would love the Chiefs. We haven't touched on it. I know we're limited here on time. I'd love the Chiefs to get Rojo activated and play in this game because it would mean something to him. I would set Pacheco down, tell him to learn something, just no big deal. Just you're not in trouble, but we want to see what we got in Rojo. This is the week to do it for personal reasons of being inactive 2 weeks and personal reasons up against his old team. I want to see Rojo this week. Could it happen? I don't know, but that's what I want to see. I want to see the Chiefs get an offensive identity. I know I said about Byron Pringle, but all Justin Watson has to do is just be Byron Pringle. Keep the drive alive. 3rd and 7, keep the drive alive. We mesh offensively. When we pick up third downs, we grow. Justin Watson, be Byron Pringle, and we'll be fine. And Patrick Mahomes will mesh with his weapons.
Guys, I'm looking at the Tampa Bay defense. Golly, they look just monsters all over the place. Monsters at every level. You got in the backfield, you got to deal with Logan Ryan, and you got to deal with
Antoine Winfield, and Carlton Davis.
Yeah, Sean Murphy Bunting or whatever his name is. You got to deal with all of them. And then you got to deal with 45. You got to deal with White. You got to deal with 54. And then Shaq Barrett coming off the edge. And then probably the best defensive player on that team, in my opinion, Vita Vea, 50. You got monsters literally at every single level. Nothing that the Chiefs can't handle. But guys, going into this game, they have to be on their A game offensively. This cannot be another performance like how it was against the Colts. 15, you got to hit your underneaths, man. You have to this game. It's not going to be open too much deep. You got to hit your underneaths and soften it up. And the run game has to be there. It has to. It has to, man. Because without the run game, without those underneaths, you become one-dimensional. Tampa Bay knows what you're doing, and you're never going to score anything against that defense. They're allowing 9 points per game.
Yeah.
9 points per game. An NFL team. They held Aaron Rodgers to 14 points last week. Come with your A game and come with your Wheaties this week, fellas, especially that O-line.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough battle, man. It's going to be a tough battle because of that defense, but luckily we have a defense to throw at Tom Brady, who finally looks like he's 40. So that may be a good thing for the Chiefs. So if we can make it tough, but I think that you're going to see a lot of the screen game. But you said it best, Brian. It's going to come. I think this is going to come down to the running game. Like if we can't get the running game going, that we're going to be so dependent on Pat making all of these plays that it may come back to bite us. But I really think that this is a game that Andy Reid is like, all right, everybody's saying this and that about us offensively. Let's put something on tape again like we did against the Cardinals to make everybody fear us once again. So many things. Like think about us talking about this loss to the Colts. So many things had to go wrong for the Colts to win at the end of the game, Like we still had a chance to go and get a field goal to take it to overtime. I don't think all of those things happen and go wrong, and I think the Chiefs find a way to, eke out a close 24-20 victory.
There it is. There's a first prediction. Noah, are you ready to go into prediction mode?
Brian first.
Look, I was just going to say before we go to Noah, I just want to point out Super Bowl 55, 45 had 87 locked up. Locked up. I just want Travis Kelce to go back and look at that tape, and so he can get motivated. It was bad.
Pat couldn't throw it to anybody. And a shout out, it was a comment that I saw. I think it was someone Told Free. His name is Told Free, his last name. He said one of the worst takes I've seen in a long time. He said Harris was better than Willie Gay.
Here we go. Here it is.
There it is. Todd, Mr. Todd Told Free.
He gave up a tutty.
Yeah, he gave up a touchdown. So, I don't want to see that again.
I agree with you. Willie Gay had some tackling issues there in week 2, but still definitely the more athletic
11
player.
tackles that game.
Right, yeah. It's more than made up for it, and he's a very much an emerging player. Noah, I want to go to you for this prediction. Mykell, we got a prediction already, so we're going to kind of go around the horn here as we wrap things up with our predictions here. Chiefs, Buccaneers, we don't know where the game's taking place. Does that give us a little – can we, tease the line down or something? Because, we don't know where this is going to be. Dallas, Minneapolis, here. I don't know, maybe Liberty High School up here by me. I don't know where the hell this is going to be. Noah, get us a prediction and make me feel better if you wouldn't mind.
I'm not going to make you feel any better. Mike Evans is coming back for the Bucs. We got Tom Brady out there. He's kind of got our number here and there. We don't have Tyreek Hill to go for 200 yards in the first half. Somebody asked in the comments earlier, are we going to cry about Tyreek Hill all season long?
Yes.
For me, yes. Not from these other guys, but for me, you're going to hear it. So I apologize ahead of time because I'll probably be bringing it every week. But going back to this game, Brian, you mentioned it. You hit the nail on the head right there.
You did.
The defense, I mean, at every level, Shaq Barrett's going to cause problems for any tackle he faces, whether it's Orlando Brown or Andrew Wiley. Vita Vea is going to cause problems for our $80 million man, Joe Tooney or Trey Smith, wherever he's lined up, Creed Humphrey. I mean, Levante David and Devin White are just all over the field, sideline to sideline. You said it. Devin White can clamp up Kelsey. The secondary can clamp up these receivers who aren't getting separation already. If we can't move the ball against the Chargers very well or the Colts very well, what is going to happen against the Bucs? Not good things. That is the answer. 24-17, Bucs come away with the win.
I agree. Noah, wrong team favored here. I have it 23-16, so we're pretty similar. I just think this is all about the Bucs. Both teams coming off out of adverse situations. The Buccaneers, Tom Brady and whatever's going on with him. I hate talking about him. It just gets old and tiring, but something's going on there. I can't relate, but he's got some sort of spousal issues. I don't know what that even means or how that affects you on the field or in your professional life. I don't know. I'm never going to have to deal with it, but the Buccaneers backs against the wall. This is a home game. I guess as of now, the Bucs are at home. And I just remember that feeling walking out of Raymond James Stadium. No, I'll never forget it. We've seen this movie before. We saw how confident that secondary was and how confident they were at the second level. And now our offense is worse, and we're just supposed to accept that, I guess. So the Buccaneers get the win. Chiefs go to 2-2. And by the way, guys, in a couple weeks, we're going to be talking about 3-3 start to the season. Brian, Shine, and I both have this team 11-6. And I think that we're going to hit the nail on the head when it's all said and done, Brian. So I'm just going to send it to you.
Yeah, this is going to be a knockout dragout, man. Not a high-scoring game, in my opinion. I got Chiefs winning 20-14. The Bucs don't capitalize on their last possession to drive down and get a touchdown. The Chiefs defense comes and saves the day and spoils Tom Brady's.
I guess I better get my heart medicine ready, Brian, if that's how it's going to go.
Yes, sir. You better go get it. You better. Yeah.
Who you want to go, me or Mykell?
Shane.
On my season prediction show, I had this game as a tie. Since the Chiefs,
oh God, please no.
since the Chiefs lost to the Colts, I have the Chiefs rebounding and winning 28-23 by 5.
Ooh. Anything but a tie, my brother.
Man.
Now we got to get the tie somewhere though. It'll be where's that going to be now? Maybe just Chargers. How about that?
Look, you know what? Last week, Noah, you had the Chiefs winning 30-9.
31-9.
31-9. And now this week,
31-9.
And now this week, you got us losing to the Bucs. All the confidence is out of the world because Sky Moore can't catch a punt and because Chris Jones likes to have conversations with quarterbacks.
Yes, the confidence is gone. I'm sorry.
That's like a 30-point swing, bro.
With the Bucs defense, yes, it is a 30-point swing. I'm sorry.
Y'all are up here, down here.
That's the story of the league, man. That's every week. Everything exists week to week, right?
If the Chiefs can stop Fournette, that I think our pass rush is going to make it tough on Brady, where he might give us a pick or two, which will give us an advantage, and that's why I have it 24-20.
I think that's a good point.
Great point, because the Bucs offensive line,
yeah,
it is a mess. Look, Chris Jones, Dunlap, Karlaftis should be licking their chops right now. I think this is going to be a big game for Chris Jones. I think it's a get back. He owes the entire, not just the team, not the players inside. He owes the entire kingdom, fam. He does, and he knows it. And I trust that Chris Jones will bounce back and be a monster this game.
Well,
agreed.
Guys, this felt like a show that we could have went on and done another hour because it just I just the truth of it is, like, I just respect each and every one of you so much that this collection of talent and people here, I just feel privileged to be a part of it. And I miss being on post game because I was at the game, but hearing you guys as I was pulling away, it was so great. And there's so many different perspectives. And in one argument, we're talking about, Eric Berry, Patrick Mahomes. It's like I agreed with everybody, even though there was different opinions. Right. So that's where I'm at. That's how good each and every one of you guys are. So we thank everybody for joining us. Like Noah said at the onset, if you like the show, subscribe to us here. Everybody out here has their thing. So find Mykell Mathieu. If you guys here in Kansas City don't know much about Mykell, he's the Money Badger. He's out there in beautiful Hollywood, California, where You can get 365 sunshine, but you can't charge your Tesla. It's give and take out there. Shaggy Shane Entertainment, great post-game show for you. Brian B. Shynin, my God, an interview with our Mayor Quentin Lucas here to start the week off. Amazing stuff. I live in Gladstone, so I guess technically not my mayor, but appreciate the great interview, great insight on some of the infrastructure going on in Kansas City and then talking about the game. Noah, you always, myself and Noah here at Starcade Media, always appreciate you following and leaving the comments. It's been just a tremendous show, guys. We'll see you next Tuesday. We'll see if everyone makes it back. And I don't know, maybe we'll see everybody here wherever this game's taking place. I'm holding that hope we can make this happen, guys. Arrowhead Allies, mount up.
See ya.